Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this morning for our 45-minute webinar on SupplyPro GM for painting contractors. My name is Melanie, and I'm a member of the marketing team here at Hyphen Solutions. And on behalf of our team, I'd really like to thank you for being a valued customer. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jacob, who will be facilitating our webinar. Jacob Tornquist is our Senior Product Specialist ERP and has 21 years of experience in construction ERP development, sales, and implementation. Jacob has put together a great presentation for you all today, focusing on operating a residential painting business with SupplyPro GM. I just wanted to let you know that you can submit questions as they come to you during the webinar in the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side. There will be 4 to 5 minutes at the end of the session to answer your questions. Again, thank you for your 45 minutes, and Jacob, I'll now pass it over to you.
Very good, thank you, Melanie. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar today. Excited for this presentation. We're going to review the Hyphen SupplyPro GM and focusing today in on painting contractors. So we got a big audience and excited to share all of these applications with you today. So I'm going to go through a couple of quick PowerPoints here, and then we're going to jump right into looking at the actual software and the interfaces. I know that's typically what is most exciting. So I did want to start off though with kind of introduce Hyphen Solutions quickly here. Of course, we are the largest scheduling, purchasing, and collaboration solution for residential construction. We're connecting more than 13,000 suppliers today with 90% of the national builders and hundreds and hundreds of regional builders, and managing close to 300,000 new homes in North America annually. So it's a very large ecosystem of builders and suppliers. Obviously, you being on the webinar today, you're already aware of that and some of the features that we're offering as well. So today we'll be looking at the Hyphen SupplyPro GM, and this is not SupplyPro, but an extension to SupplyPro. Being that you're on this webinar today, you're probably working in SupplyPro daily, going into SupplyPro, looking up new purchase orders, new tasks, change orders, schedule updates, and communicating with your builder, utilizing SupplyPro as a portal. So SupplyPro GM extends the capabilities of that and gives you a management tool that allow you to take the purchase order you get from the builders and just continue managing them for your own benefit. So in terms of scheduling, in terms of resourcing, and eventually billing and such. So it really connects your builder, your office, and your field workforce. We're going to see today a really great field app that keeps things very simple and really facilitates the communication back and forth with the office and with the builder. Just a quick review of kind of what we've looked at when we designed these applications. We work, as I mentioned, with thousands of suppliers. We've kind of reviewed their processes through the years, talked to them to see, what would really benefit yourselves in terms of a system. And we've identified a workflow that looks pretty much like this for all our suppliers. There was obviously variations and slight modifications. So some people maybe don't manage their own inventory, they do purchasing instead. But typically what we see is, everything starting with getting your new orders. And that's usually where you pick things up today in SupplyPro. Confirming and scheduling the orders. Confirming them you can do today in SupplyPro. Scheduling them for your own benefit, not so much. So that's kind of where the process stops today. So everything that happens after that in this kind of workflow here is something that the GM will add to your process to help you better manage your own internal processes, resources, such as your crews, material requirements, and so on. And we can just quickly look through here, obviously managing parts and materials, preparing for our jobs, making sure that we have those items available, assigning resources as in scheduling, loading orders, again, if you do have an inventory requirement or if you're purchasing directly from supplier with drop ship to site, either way will work. We'll kind of manage those components in here. Obviously the delivery and the installation, completing the work on site with instant communication and feedback between the office, the field, and even the client as well. And then, of course, invoicing and managing time tracking, the payment to subcontractors, payment to employees, whether that's through hourly or through piecework. Those are items that will be managed in here as well. And then, of course, as a little bit of a separate process once the job is done, also managing the service and warranty, and potentially also picking up clients, and the home buyers as the clients to work with kind of after construction service and warranty as well. So that's kind of the nice way of looking at this process. As we've been working with a lot of suppliers through the years, this is what we've seen a lot of out in the actual real world. Starts off great with SupplyPro, and then from there, it turns out to be a lot of phone calls, emails, redundant data into various different systems, obviously paper folders, the traditional whiteboard for scheduling and managing, supported typically by Excel, and various emails and texts to try to keep everybody on board. And then also we usually see QuickBooks out there somewhere in the mix, or other accounting systems, of course, as well, but that ties into this process as well. So this is what SupplyPro GM is now designed to manage for you in a more structured environment. So with that being said, I'm going to switch over into the actual software as promised. I'm going to open up two interfaces for us in here and give you a quick introduction to both of these interfaces that we have here. So as you can see up at the top, Hyphen SupplyPro GM, we're looking at on the left-hand side here, more of our back office interface, as we refer to it. So this is more the general management, setting things up, scheduling things out, dispatching, keeping track of where everybody's at and what they're up to. This is a fully, of course, browser interface. I'm utilizing this or running this today in Chrome. You can do it in your Internet Explorer, Edge, or Safari if you prefer the Apple products. Either way, we're completely agnostic as to what browser you're using. Accompanying that, we also have this field app. So you can see, if I bring that into focus here a little bit, here we have the field app for that. This is designed for both Apple products as well as Android. So pretty much any device that you can pick up today out in the market, you'll be able to quickly activate this either in the Play Store or the App Store, and putting in your credentials and get instantly connected to the office and also your clients to be able to start sharing information, photos, kind of back and forth in real time. This application here, the field app, also we like to bring that to everyone's attention that it will open up in the native language. So if you have certain users, field users, crews and such, subcontractors that you're working with, maybe they're Spanish speaking, as soon as they open up this app on their phones, it'll actually open up in Spanish as well. That's also true for the back office solution, where you do have an option for individual users to set them up for the system to operate in Spanish instead of in English. All right, so I'm going to park this one over here for a little bit. I want to kind of brief introduction here to the browser interface in here to give you a bit of an orientation and overview of what it is that the system actually does. You can see across the top here, I have my mouse here right now. I have a bit of a short list of our favorites, so to say, what our supplier clients are most interested in. Scheduling usually being a big part of that, and we'll certainly look more at that. We have various different ways to manage your schedules to efficiently and effectively make sure that your resources are scheduled out and dispatched to the jobs. Customer and job management, of course, that's a big part, being able to track the individual jobs within your various different customers that you work with. The billing side, look at that as well as we get towards the end of our presentation, how completed work orders automatically turn into invoices for further posting into your accounting system. Work order management, of course, the purchase orders that you receive from your builders are turned into a work order when they come into SupplyPro GM, and that's what we're scheduling out and managing within the system in here. There's also an inventory side to this, and an asset management. So typically, this is a bit of a bonus. Usually we don't have a lot of suppliers coming to us asking for asset management, but it does have it, and a lot of customers are pleasantly surprised with the ability to track and manage their vehicles in addition to also track and manage their resources. Then we've got a couple specialty features here towards the end. Material requisitions, we'll look at that as well, how you can easily in the field request more materials or requisition materials for new work orders that you receive from your builders. EPOs, as in extra POs, variance POs, overage POs, whatever you prefer to call them. Also great processes to manage that in here as well, which can be a fairly elusive and difficult process where typically we see a lot of suppliers lose some money in the tracking of those. And then we have a couple of other specialty items in here. We see you can set up kind of to yourself, your business. I have just kind of set up various queues in here to manage my different stages where I can go in and see all my jobs that I currently have, where I'm doing my first final coat, second final coat, or prep prime, or whatever it is that I'm interested in. So I can add as many of these items as I want up here as well. And that's something else that's true for the software in general. It's highly customizable and flexible in terms of how you set it up. If we look at this bottom part of the screen here, we can also see a dashboard. This also gives us a really good idea of the kind of information, the data that's managed within SupplyPro GM. We can see up to the left here, we have a map view, and here I can actually go in and look in real time where I have all of my users and what they're currently up to, and I can just go and browse over them and see what they're kind of who's where and what they're actually doing. And this is something that's true throughout, and you'll see that here in SupplyPro GM, that we like to put the map indications and geographical location to not only users, like I see here, but also to customers and jobs and work orders. So we can track not only what's going on, but also where everyone's at and where everything is happening. In addition to that, we can see some trends here. It's pretty typical. We like to see that in dashboards. How many customers are we adding? How many jobs are we adding by month? A little bit of forecasting for that. Monthly billing, again, being able to kind of track our trends for that. I have an area up here for notifications. Great feature in the system. I can set reminders on pretty much any object within SupplyPro GM and then have it remind myself or other users in this dashboard environment. And of course, I can just click on these to get directly to that particular object. And it might be something relating to a work order or something relating to inventory that we need to order, additional inventory, equipment maintenance or such. I also have a feature called alarms in here. This is probably one of my favorite features in the system, where you can go in as a customer and configure the system very easily to notify you of certain things that occur. What those things are, that's really up to yourself. We're not trying to decide what's important to you, but you can go in and say that I really would like to know and get notified as soon as someone sets a status on a work order that they're waiting for parts, or as soon as someone is issuing an urgent field material request, or whatever it is in your business that's critical for yourself to get that instant notification. You can set it to have those notifications show up here on the dashboard, like I see them here, but you can also have them come directly to yourself via email or text. So consider that, but you're sitting in the office, maybe you're out in a meeting somewhere, and you get a text about something that's occurred out on site that needs your attention without anyone even having to send that to you or initiate that, just by them clicking off a status somewhere. In addition to that, we'll see other items here, again, kind of to the point of how customizable the system is. So here I have kind of listings of my prep and prime, so my new jobs that are coming in that needs to be prepped and prime here right now, walkthroughs that we have scheduled. And this kind of tends to the point as well that you have great ability to customize this. So you decide what it is that you want to see in this interface, whether it's relating to your schedule tasks, your work orders, whether it's relating to your billing, financial information. It's completely up to you. Different users, of course, can also have different dashboards, and again, have the ability to kind of customize and tweak them directly on their own, of course, within their permissions. All right, so with that, I want to go into the actual processing of this. And typically we start off looking at the scheduling side. So I'm just going to go click on my schedule icon right up here, and it'll take me into my default setup in here. And maybe we'll go and just start off with looking at everybody in my company and kind of show me that view here. So here I have all my various crews, users, however you decide to schedule them. And maybe I find that that's way too much for me to consume and look at within this view. So what I have on my left-hand side here, I have various different pre-built searches So I can go in and say that, I'm managing the Dallas office, and maybe right now I was just interested in looking at our current service workload and what we have going on out there. Maybe I want to switch over and look at my install or my actual paint jobs that we have that are scheduled. So I can very easily here create these different searches for myself and then have those pre-built. So just with a click of a button, I can focus the screen around certain crews and certain type of work. In this view, you see there's a lot of things going on in here as well. Obviously, we have the schedule up across the top here, and we'll look a little bit closer at that. We have this map view here, and we'll attach or address that as well. I want to start off, though, by focusing our attention on this list view down here. Here I have currently just a list of all of my unassigned work orders, and I can just browse through these. So this is everything in my business that currently needs to be assigned to someone at some point. So that's a good view to have as a starting point. However, I can go in and request additional views in here. So I can go and say, I want to look at what we call a list view. This will now show me every work order that we have currently, whether it's assigned or unassigned. So this shows it to me in chronological order. I can easily see what's coming up next, what are we working on, who is where, and do we have any gaps that need to be filled, maybe something that we've missed. Maybe we had a service call that was scheduled and we forgot to assign us. So it gives me that quick and easy way to identify that. I can also go and browse down the list here. You can see there's several other queries in here for searches. I can go and say, I want to look at what's been created today, what's past due, and so on. Very exciting here, though, as well, is the new SupplyPro POs. And this is where we now tie into SupplyPro. So instead of going to the SupplyPro portal, I now go directly into this view in here, and I can see all my new purchase orders in here. I can also see change orders, schedule changes, updates, and I can build those into various different buckets here, so to say. So it's easy for me to go in and list those and see what's changing and what's going on. So if we look at one of these, if we just hover over here, we can see this was a new purchase order we received for a paint job, and we're at the task right now for the first final coat there. We can see the floor plan, the elevation, the builder, community, and so on. If I click on my little view button there, that'll take me in to the actual work order that was automatically created from the purchase order by the builder. So here we can see all the information that you're probably used to seeing in SupplyPro: customer location, the job, subdivision, general description with PO numbers and such, what the actual task is. So all these standard fields that if you are a SupplyPro user, you're used to seeing. I might also have notes and comments from the builder that I can see in here. I can also go in and add notes directly within here and specify whether I want to share those with the builder or the customer or not. If I go down a little bit further, I can also see here items that are specific to my business. And this part here really comes down to yourself. You can customize this yourself as to what it is that you want to track. So in this scenario here, I've used this to kind of capture my different options, my different paint options. So what is the paint? What are the different options that were included on this deal? And as we move out into the field, we'll see how this follows through out there as well. In addition to this summary screen that we see here, we can also go and look at things like documents. So if today you go to SupplyPro, access documents, download them, maybe you put them in Dropbox and share them out to users in the field or other offices and such. No need to do that anymore. Documents instantly available in here. And as soon as I schedule this out to a crew, those documents will be available to them as well. And of course, everyone in the office has instant access to this as well. In addition to that, I can also go and add internal documents. So if you need to supplement the documents you receive by the builder with your own specifications or such, you can certainly add that in here as well. That's no problem at all. We can also go look at my billing tab here, where we can see that if this was kind of the base work order that was created from the purchase order, we can see, of course, the amount of the purchase order sitting here as well. And this is a little more than just the actual amount. If we go into the view here, we can see that this is actually an invoice that has been created, and it's going to sit here as tentative. Obviously, at this point, I can validate my pricing, make sure that the PO matches what we've previously quoted for this particular floor plan and such. But then I can just let the invoice sit here until the work is completed in the field. Once the work is completed, this invoice will then get funneled into a different bucket for invoices ready to be notified to customers or sent out to customers if it is for clients maybe are not on SupplyPro. Of course, you can do that as well. And then, of course, post that over to your accounting system, again, without any data entry whatsoever. In addition to that, a couple of other items in here as well. I can go to my parts. And here we can see that even though we just received this PO from the builder right now, I already have parts in here. I haven't actually entered those in here. Instead, we're using something that we refer to as SKU Sphere that helps us look at the builder's purchase order, identify their SKUs, their options, their floor plans, and then match that up with your own material requirements. So it's essentially an interpretation and translation of the builder's PO that happens automatically, loads in the required parts that you need or the required material and labor for that instance sake as well. So it's really up to yourself what it is that you want to have as an auto-loaded component in here. Huge benefit with that is that I can now turn around easily, go and say that I want to do a fulfillment of this, and I'm going to do a material request. You can see those same items in here. Go to my fulfillment, and in here I have the ability now to either get request a delivery order to my warehouse. Just check that off, create that delivery order. It'll go down to my warehouse or my inventory guy to prepare that. Or if I don't have inventory at all, or maybe we didn't have some parts in inventory, we can now go and say that we want to generate a purchase order. So this works really well for both companies that do have inventory and needs to manage that process, as well as suppliers that don't, where they're purchasing everything directly for each individual job. As you can see, it's very easy to do that here as well. All right, I'm going to close that. Takes me back to the actual work order that we're looking at. They want to touch on this area in here because in addition to the work order being created for me from SupplyPro, I also got the job file created. Of course, we might have multiple work orders, multiple POs, multiple tasks that we do on each job. So this is the actual job that was created with the job number in here. Again, I can see all that standard information that we're used to seeing. If we go into my work order view in here, we can see that here I can have multiple work orders related directly to this job. So if you have maybe some internal administrative items where you're pulling permits or you're checking things, you're doing redlining, whatever is involved in your process, you can certainly have those work orders added in here to the job as well. And then you might have, prep and prime, you might have in first coat, second coat, walkthroughs, front door painting, exterior painting, whatever those work orders are that you need to manage, you can have them all set up under the job and then follow the completion in terms of, who did the work, when did it happen, directly within this view. For any work order that has also been completed, we can also go in and look at that in here and see that we can go in and look at our time tracking here. So this work order had already been done, and now I can go and see who actually did the work, when were they there, start and stop, actual duration for that, and what was the activity that they were doing. So whether you pay your employees and subcontractors by the hour or by piecework, this becomes a very useful information to have, even if it's just for the purpose of analyzing how long it takes to do certain tasks to help you with negotiations and to help you with pricing. All right, so that was the job that we said was created from SupplyPro, so we no longer have to set up our own jobs. The work order we said was created by SupplyPro with all the information, and of course you can augment that, add any information, documents and such that you want. So at this point, also wanted to just highlight real quick in here, not everybody is using BuildPro and SupplyPro, not all builders are on BuildPro. So we do also have the option here to gather purchase orders from other portals for you as well. So if you have larger builders that you're working with where you are constantly going to their portal looking for new POs, or maybe you get them via email, just like you're interacting with SupplyPro, we have the ability to utilize what we call software robots that can essentially be put on a schedule to mimic that repetitive behavior that we do as humans, where we go log into a builder portal, navigate around, find the PO, find the changes, find the documents, download them and all that. So we can actually automate that process as well and treat those purchase orders and tasks no differently in this view than we would with your SupplyPro POs. So by doing that, we're eliminating now not only going to SupplyPro, but also going to all the other portals potentially that you use as well. And as we're talking about different ways of getting POs and work orders into the system, I also wanted to mention, of course, you do have the ability in here to add work orders manually. So you can go directly in here and say that maybe you had a service call, or maybe you had a new PO from a builder that's not on any portal, custom build or something like that. You can go directly and add that information into the system and then put that as or include that in part of the general processing that you do within here. All right, I'm going to go back to my SupplyPro POs, the examples that I had in there, so we'll see those. At this point, maybe I wanted to schedule this out. So if we start looking here a little bit about our scheduling side, here I can see, based on the search that we did, that I have multiple crews loaded up for me in here. I can see all the work that's been scheduled for them right now. In here, we also have the ability to look at this in more of a daily view, more like an Outlook type view, where again, I can drag and drop. I have all my unassigned work over here, or in my various list views down here, where I can still access all those same lists in here. So this is more of an Outlook or Google Calendar type view, if you're more familiar with that. You can also look at this, of course, from a weekly perspective, monthly perspective, where you can see what do we have to go each day. You can forecast, you can browse things week by week very easily, or month by month if you prefer to do that. If I go back to my composite view here, though, I do like to show this real quick here as well. In addition to having the scheduled work orders presented up here, I'm also showing them to you down here in this map view. So here we can see each crew with the color legend up here, and then we can see the matching route for those crews down here with the matching color. The benefit of this is that I can see obviously where everyone's at, but also where they're heading next, and I can manage to make sure that I'm not sending people all over town. So if I have service work, patch guys, for example, that are roaming around the city, or crews that are doing multiple jobs throughout the week, I can view this either in a daily view or a multi-day view. So if I want to look at maybe 3 or 4 or 5 days at a time, I can certainly do that. And then I can instantly see, the route and the plan that we have for each of our crews. To supplement that as well, I can also go and say, I want to optimize someone's route. So if I'm questioning what we've done here for this user, I might want to go in and say, I want to optimize that. I'm going to say that his day starts daily here in the office, and his destination, so his end destination day is also in the office. I'm going to go and do an optimization on that. And that's going to tell me here that this was how you had it scheduled before. And then once we put our algorithms to work in the optimization process here, this is how we would suggest that you schedule it instead. And by doing so, we can get an optimization gain of just over 21 miles, saving you that driving, the gas, the time, and of course the dollars that come with that, and also freeing up more time. So this is something we can do like I did here for one crew or one service guy, depending on how what it is we're looking at for one day. But you can also do this for multiple crews, multiple days, and just feed in all the jobs that you need to be done. So you can essentially say, we have 30 jobs that need to be done here over this next week that's coming up. These are the 8 crews we have available. Schedule it for me, optimize it, and then the system will do that, schedule it all out, and sign it. And then you can see it in a view just like this. And then you can start making your modifications directly from there, where you might go in and say that, yeah, I know this guy has a soccer game there or doctor's appointment, so I'm going to move that around, and I can easily be scheduling just by dragging and dropping in there. All right, so let's go and look back to that work order that we had, and I'm going to go schedule that out, and then we'll move out into the field here and see what it looks like for those users out there. So we're going to take that work order that we had, and I'm going to drag and drop that onto this crew out here, Jacob McIntosh, which is my alter ego in the system. So when we schedule that out there, we'll move into the mobile world, and I'm just going to open that up, kind of center that for us here. In here, you can see a very, very simplistic interface, and that was the whole goal with when we designed this. I have 4 big buttons. It's pretty hard to miss what it is that I'm supposed to do. Right now, I'm just going to go to our work order tab down in my left-hand button there, or my work order button there, and we'll see that that'll open up and show me the work orders that I currently have scheduled for myself. If I'm more of a supervisor in the field, the foreman, I'm managing multiple crews, I can view their times in here as well. I can view their work orders, and I can see this in kind of schedule and calendar views as well. Right now, though, if I focus in on this one work order that we had in here, this first final coat that we're doing. I got the main information out here, so the builder, subdivision and such, when it's scheduled for the day. I can open that up, and this will now show me in here more information. So pretty much the same thing that we saw on that summary tab in the browser environment, I can now see that in here. So what's the PO, task, floor plan, what's it for, where is it at, subdivision, phase lot block, and so on. You also have sub-control here for what you want to show, so you may not want to show all of this information, but it certainly is available. If we browse down here or scroll down a little bit, we can see that I have down at the bottom here, actually, I can see the notes. So the notes that we had previously, I can access those here, and I can also add notes to that if I wanted to. I also have paint options down there under my form, so I can actually tap on that, open that up, and here I'll see the paint options directly from the office. And again, this is something that's customizable, configurable for yourself. It's very simple to build these different types of forms. Not something that we have to do or requires programming or anything like that. You essentially just go in and type in what you want and what type of fields you want them to be, and then they will become part of your process in here. So now as a field user, I can very easily see here what's the deal with this job, what's included, what isn't, what options, what colors, and all those type of items. So this could, of course, be a much more extensive list in the real world than what I'm showing you here. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to focus up a little bit higher up here. We can see these action items up here. So this is right now looks just like a checklist, and essentially that is what it is. The nice thing, though, with our checklists in SupplyPro GM is that they can do more than just check off and say that things are completed. So if we start going through this here, we'll see that the first step that I've suggested for my field crews to do is to notify me when they're in transit, so essentially when they start driving towards site. So I'm just going to tap on that, and we'll see that all that happens is turns from red to green, indicating that I've completed that. What can also happen at the same time is that it can start tracking the time for that. So how long did it take to drive? And same thing with all these tasks. So we can start, getting a little bit more analytical in terms of what people are spending their time on. I can also have these updates in the field automatically update the colors and the statuses that I have in the back office. So I can essentially sit in the office and just view the dispatch board and the colors and monitor the progress out in the field. And you can assign, of course, these colors yourself as to how you want them to, or what you want them to reflect and represent. My next action item, my next task here in my little step-by-step checklist is turn-by-turn navigation. This is just a simplicity or a nicety feature that allows me to utilize Google Maps or tools like that to quickly and easily get the navigational help that I may need. So take me from A to B with the destination, obviously being the job site. Benefit of that being that it, I don't have to type in the address, and obviously the address is also always correct. My next item here is reschedule. Something again that I may or may not want to have in here. You decide yourself what steps you want in these processes, but it gives me the ability. Maybe I'm a supervisor and I go in and say, yeah, it turns out this guy's not available, so I'm just going to give it to someone else and I can reschedule that. If I do that, I can also instantly have a notification sent to both users about the fact that we have changed the schedule for them. So maybe we want them to get a text. You can certainly do that as well. Maybe I want to change the date and time, remove it from the schedule to put it back in the bucket of unscheduled work that needs to be rescheduled. I can certainly do that here as well. My next one here is on-site. If I tap on that, that takes me into another one of these forms. So this is again a form that I created just for the purpose of illustrate how we can use these. So this is using GM's built-in form builder. It took me about 5 minutes to create this, and you'll see in here, obviously I've added some checkboxes where I can say, was the job ready when you came on site, safety check completed, created some multiple choice pick lists in here just to indicate how easy it is to modify these forms. I have a site photo front exterior indicated by a little star here telling me that that is a required photo. So I'm going to just click on the little plus sign there, and I'm going to go and do a capture in here and quickly take a photo of that, say okay, and I'm going to save that into place in here. I also have a plus sign below there, so I can actually take multiple photos directly within here. I'm going to capture there, take another photo, and rotate, save that into place. And you can see that I get the thumbnails there indicating what I've taken photos of. Next item here is site photo interior main. So again, these are just examples. Obviously, you can prompt your users for whatever type of photos that you want. But we've had a lot of positive feedback from our clients indicating that they really like the idea of being able to categorize the photos so that it's not just 50 photos from site, but we can actually prompt them for what we want. And then as we're viewing them, we can also see exactly what they are. I got a couple more items in here, some more check boxes, text boxes. Maybe I wanted to capture a signature in here as well, something I can do both for any kind of form actually. So in this case, it's just to add a little bit of accountability to this process so that the foreman that's actually filling this in knows that he better be on site and he better be doing this. When I save that, again, we get that completed, turns from red to green. If we go into the office here, we can now click on that same work order that we're looking at in the field. In here, if I go to my form view, we can now see that I have various different forms in here. If I go to view of that job ready, here we'll now see that all those questions that we asked are now answered and available for me in here. The photos are already here, as is the signature, and also a geotag that shows me down to the minute and with the location when this form was actually completed, when and where we should say. So right now we're looking at this as kind of raw data. Of course, I can produce this into a nice looking PDF. I can also, as part of the kind of automation and communication rules, I could have had this form sent as a nice PDF to the builder or someone at the office in the instant that it was completed in the field. So this is something that you can now add into various different checklists, punch lists, things that you want to communicate to the office, things you want to communicate to the customer. You can do that very easily and with automation. We get back in the field, got a couple of other items in here to show safety form, a lot of safety compliance out there. Builders are pushing the compliance down to the suppliers. We're even hearing about audits by some builders, making sure that the suppliers are doing proper safety management. Here it's easy to do. You don't need to go out and buy a different app or track it in PDFs or Excel. Just add these forms and make sure that things are completed. And of course, you can also make these items required for the field workers. Maybe you need it, again, just as an example, ability to do a field issue reporting, very quick and easy form. Just type in the issues, take some photos, be instantly available in the office. And again, we can set different communication rules to all of these items as well. Maybe I want to deliver the materials. So in here, we had a couple of different paint items that were essentially taken from the main inventory. Now I can install those into this job and removing them from inventory if I'm interested in tracking the actual inventory component of it. But nice and simple, see those items in there, tap them off, puts them into the house. We also have in here ability to do material requests where I can very easily go in and say that I need more material, we're short on something. So I can go in and say that, yeah, I got a couple of different items in here, and maybe we'll just go and search for paint in here so we can see what we have available, search for that, and pull up those items. I can go in and request how many of these items I want. That can then automatically send an email either to the vendor and actually create a purchase order, or to the back office indicating that I need more materials. Then we can complete that by creating a PO in the office and then have someone obviously run out with those materials to site so we don't have any delays on site. Next item is an extra PO, EPO. So if we need to get an additional PO for work that wasn't included in the scope, I can certainly do that. Again, I can go in and add parts directly within here as to what it is that I needed to include. And just for the sake of time, I can just pick some couple of items in here and say that, yeah, we needed a couple more of these. Maybe we need some additional paint. Or maybe they sent the wrong paint or the wrong color indication, so we have to go buy it again. Maybe I wanted to add service parts to this as well and say that, yeah, this builder has an hourly install rate of $75 an hour, took us 1.5 hours. Maybe put in a description here, back charge to another trade, maybe reference a builder representative that asked us to do this work, or just explain what it is we're doing. Once I save that here, I can quickly go and check out, instantly creates a request to the builder that can also instantly be sent to the builder. I can kind of do a bit of a preview here, making sure that the dollars make sense, making sure that it references the right builder, job, subdivision, and such. Next, I can go next in here. Now I have the option to get that signed. So I know typically builders don't have representatives on site when this happens, but if they do, you can certainly capture the signature right there. I can go next, and complete that task, and that EPO has now been sent to the builders. And we can also now very easily track that in the office for POs or required POs that we still need to chase. You might add other punch lists, things that you want to make sure, just your general checklist. Again, this is just ideas. Obviously, you have your own punch list that you do today, probably in terms of in PDFs or Excel or other forms. Quick and easy to build in here, quick and easy to tie it into images and such. And then once I've done that, I can just go and say that, yeah, this is now complete. It's ready to bill, completes that PO, and now we can move on to the next task. If we go back into the office, we'll go and see that when we complete that work order there, we can go directly into our invoices up here. In here, I can obviously search and manage invoices in several different ways, but I can also just scroll down and show you probably my favorite here, which is completed and ready to bill, which gives me a listing of all work orders that have been assigned as completed, but we have not yet billed out. So this can be for obviously different builders. I can go check all these off and say I want to notify the builders. Maybe I want to send out an email for these directly to the builders. I can go do that as well. And of course, you can expand on this as well. Maybe you want to see this by builder or by district. You can certainly add those different searches and categories in here as well. But if we consider this, we've essentially now completed the task of receiving new POs and tasks, managing the time, the schedule updates with the builder back and forth. We got the job set up for us. Work orders were created for us. We've issued it out to our own forces in the field, our crews in the field. They've completed the work. That's now come back into the office. The invoice is sitting here ready for us. We can send the request for payment or send the invoice to the builder. And then also have this now, all of those items fall directly into an accounting system such as QuickBooks or some of the Sage products that we also integrate with. And we can do that in some way, we have done that in this process now without doing any data entry. We're essentially just using the information that we're getting from the builder and flowing that through into GM and then also into QuickBooks if we use that as an example for an accounting system. So that's a pretty strong workflow, eliminating a lot of data entry, as we've seen both from SupplyPro as well as from other builder portals where we can automate kind of those purchase orders for you there as well. So with that, I'm going to try to stick to my timer. There's a lot more that I would like to show. I'd love to do that obviously in a different session if we get the opportunity. But that really takes us through the core of what it is that we usually cover in here. And wanted to open it up like Melanie had suggested earlier here. So we had time for a couple of questions in here. So I'm going to go see if we have any questions loaded up and see what we have in here. So I have a question here regarding subcontractors and payments to subcontractors. So, okay, excellent question. Part of this, I mentioned it kind of at the beginning very lightly that we do have the ability to track obviously both employees and subcontractors as crews. You can pay them by the hour, kind of tracking the hours in here. So if you pay someone by the hour, you can certainly do that. We also have the ability to set up crews for piece rates. So if you're paying by completion, either via completed homes, completed square footage, or other breakdowns, you can set up those various ways to track the piecework and then have an approval process for that when it gets completed, and then have that kind of provide the backup and the detail for what you should actually be paying your subcontractors and your employees alike. Also important when we talk about subcontractors, of course, it's very common that is who actually performs the work. They are our crews very often, and you can easily here give them access to the field interface with a very limited version where there's no risk that they get access to anything else than exactly what they should see, which is typically just the work orders that we're issuing out to them. Also important with that is the fact that our licensing provides unlimited licensing, so you don't have to kind of worry about that as well. So it's easy to deploy it, just give it out to all your subcontractors, all your employees. They can activate the app, log in, start using it, and like I said, also multi-language, which might come in handy there as well. All right, and then we had another question here regarding integration to accounting systems. So I think that was from earlier. So I did mention QuickBooks. We have both the desktop, which I know a lot of construction companies use for the more advanced job costing, and we also have the online version. So either of those, you can have direct integration and eliminate a lot of entry for you in the QuickBooks world. We also have Sage integration, very Sage products, and we're just completing the integration to Sage 300 CRE and working on the Sage 100 Contractors, so the construction-specific softwares in the Sage world as well. All right, and someone said here that this is a yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of setup to do to get this system up and running. So yeah, that is true. This is something that we help our clients with. So every client that sign up, we assign a consultant that is well versed in both the construction side, so the residential supplier construction space, as well as, of course, the software itself. And they'll take you through a process, a kind of an implementation process, help you step by step to get it set up exactly for your needs. And it depends on your situation, what you're looking to get out of it. You can get this up and running very quickly and benefit from a lot of the features. And then you can expand on that as you go as well to really get into some of the more advanced features that we're looking at, asset management and those type of items. All right, so that takes me to 9:46, so I'm 1 minute late. So I should wrap this up. I really wanted to thank you all for attending today. Certainly enjoyed showing this. Hopefully that was useful to yourself. I'll bring up our screen here for where you can get in touch with us for more information. And yeah, again, appreciate your time and hopefully it was valuable to you and look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you very much.